Good evening. My name is Geoffrey Burke. And Geoffrey is spelled with a G, like a giraffe. Although I think I've been around longer than he was. I'm a candidate for Congress. I'm one of those people that are lining up to run against Bobby Scott. Bobby Scott's been up there for 28 years. And nearly, just with a handful of times did someone run against him. And that's because it's a very intimidating district. It's D plus 16, if you look at it from the political perspective. And that makes it pretty tough for a Republican or a conservative or anyone other than him to win. Plus, he has a lot of the influence of being an incumbent on his side. Things are kind of weighted for incumbents in our system. I'm really, really happy to be here tonight. I'm from originally the most extreme western parts of the original Virginia colony. It's known today as Michigan, but it was originally part of Virginia. My undergraduate training is in history, and the focus of my study was in colonial American history. So when I got orders in the U.S. Navy to settle in Norfolk area, I was pretty thrilled. I felt like I was coming home to my real roots. As it turns out, I do have roots here. On my dad's mother's side, I can trace my lineage back to John Rolfe and his Indian wife, Pocahontas. And I'm really proud of that. On my mother's side, some of her family were on the Mayflower. So I feel like there's a legacy in me that's been screaming my whole life to get engaged and to get us back where we were before, where popular sovereignty was a very real thing, where the government was small and people were free. I had a 20-year career in the Navy. Most of that time was spent on the West Coast, and I learned a lot out there. I was able to travel to the Orient about 3 times on cruises. With an undergraduate degree in history, you end up looking at people and people groups and cultures a slightly different way than most people do. And then I had a cruise in the Mediterranean, and I was able to visit some places in Europe. And so I've been able to travel around the world with the Navy. I had a 20-year career. I retired as a lieutenant commander, and I was with the ships. And I'm really proud of that experience. I don't miss it. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I know there's veterans in the room. Raise your hands. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The place I grew up in Michigan is very much like here. In fact, as I was driving in, I was feeling like I was kind of driving back home. And when I got out of the truck and I smelled cow manure, it wasn't offensive to me at all. It was taking me back. And I'm really proud to be able to tell you that. We're here at a Second Amendment event tonight, and I think what you're doing here is really important. I was one of the people that was up in Richmond for Lobby Day a couple weeks ago, and I was thrilled to be part of that assembly. I was really thrilled to be part of a group of Americans who were willing to get off work, come out and do this. It was a cold, it was a miserable day, and we left the place cleaner than we found it. I'm proud of that because that's who we are as a people. It's not the people you hear about in the news, but that's who we are as a people. I don't want to take much of your time because you're out and it's in the middle of the week. I want you to know that I'm running against Bobby Scott. There are 3 other men going to be on your ballot when you go to the polls on June 9th, which is the Republican primary for this race. I've met all of them. They're all good men. They're all godly men. But I'm the candidate that you need to choose. Because I'm up here today and I'm talking to you today as the candidate that's been preparing for this role my entire life. When I was in 9th grade, I had kind of it's a little spooky, and I don't really know how to describe it other than to say that it was a revelation. But by the end of my 9th grade year, in a little town in southern Michigan, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was going to be a career naval officer, which I did. I was going to be an educator, which I did when I left the Navy. I taught at Stonebridge School over in Western Branch as a high school history, 9th and 10th grade history teacher, and I taught Old Testament survey. And the next vocational calling that I had in this, I don't know if or vision or what, but I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I was going to be in elected office as my last real function in my life. So this started. There's been a gap between when I was in the schoolhouse and when I'm running this campaign now. And it's been because I haven't been ready to start. But I have been never more ready to start in this role in my life than I am right now. Let me just tell you, I am a born-again Jesus follower. Amen. That's the most important thing in my life. Amen. One of the things that's been such a disappointment for me in the political arena in our country is that people like me have stepped away from the ballot box. They've stepped away from running for positions of authority. And when people like me do that, when people like you don't vote for people like that, when people like you don't take the positions that we should take as men and women of God, then someone else's voice enters the public debate. And it's not a godly voice. Okay, I'm not here to tell you how you need to worship God or what church you need to go to. I'm not here to tell you if you're Jewish or screwed up. I'm not here to do that. But I believe that the Bible is a handbook for human life and human existence. And it's not just about our salvation experience that Jesus Christ brought to us. It's about every aspect of our human life. I think if you look at the Bible closely, you will find that it's a textbook for political science, for economics and business, for commerce, for every part of our life. There is instruction in there for those who would just see it. I want to take that to the halls of Congress, a perspective that's biblical in nature. I mentioned I taught at Stonebridge for 5 years. My undergraduate degree is in history, and the focus was in early American. That's another really exciting reason I'm so excited about living in Virginia, because this is where it all started. One of the things I learned at Stonebridge is that there's another view of history that we don't get in typical schools. It's called the providential view of history. It's a God's eye view of what's going on down here on the dirt. We know, for those of us who spend some time in the book of Revelation and the other books that talk about the end times, that there's an end state that he's going to get us to. And we know kind of where it started. We're in the middle somewhere. If we're called Christians, if we're called his people, then we have a role to play in getting us to the end state. He's going to get us there. Our choice is, are we going to be involved in that? The blessings in the involvement, the blessings in the service, the blessings in getting out and doing what we're called to do. This is my calling. The 3 other candidates you're going to meet at some point, they're good men. But it's not their calling. It's mine. In fact, I came to the sense today that the only reason they're in the race is to keep me off my butt, thinking and praying about what needs to happen next. Okay? I tend to be a little bit of an academic, and I love that about me, but it's where the rubber meets the road where things need to happen. This is the Second Amendment group. I'm thrilled to pieces to be here with you. There's a whole lot of other things going on. I am an ardent Second Amendment advocate. The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment on purpose. It's right there in the front. The first one's even more important. But without the second one, we can't defend the other ones. Right? So this is important, and I'm so happy to see so many people here. Young people, people of all ages, men and women. Look at all the women here. I'm thrilled to see the ladies. Amen. I really am.